Races.
Wanna dance?
Guess who's back? And just like the bride herself, I've been resurrected with a jagged haircut and a serious attitude problem. I know, did you miss me? Today we are deep diving into Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, the 2026 Gothic punk nightmare that's currently blowing up everyone's feed. It's basically Bonnie and Clyde, but everyone smells like formaldehyde. If you thought dating was hard in 2026, imagine being a 7-foot-tall man made of spare parts in 1930s Chicago. We're going to look at the plot, roast the characters, and see if this movie is actually a masterpiece, or just a very expensive family reunion for the Gyllenhaals. Stay tuned, because if you leave early, the algorithm will haunt your dreams. So meet Frank, played by Christian Bale, who looks like he was stitched together by a grandma who lost her glasses. Frank is lonely. He's the ultimate nice guy, monster who thinks he deserves a girlfriend just because he hasn't crushed a skull in at least 48 hours. He travels to Chicago to find Dr. Euphonious, played by the legendary Annette Bening. They decide to recruit Memah, played by Jessie Buckley, who was a murdered young woman. Frank's logic is, she's dead, so she can't say no to a second date. Sir, that's not a romance, that's a felony. They zap her with enough electricity to power the entire Midwest, and boom, the bride is born. But surprise, she doesn't wake up and ask for a domestic life. She wakes up and immediately chooses violence. We talk about the makeover scene. Usually these are cute montages. In this movie, it's a biohazard. Frank wants a trad wife. He gives her a wig. She treats it like trash. He gives her a dress. She rips it. She gives herself a haircut with jagged glass that makes her look like a raccoon who found a Sephora dumpster. And Frank is just standing there like a proud pageant dad. She's beauty, she's grace, she's got stitches on her face. Frank is the ultimate simp lord. He spent weeks sewing a woman together, and he's genuinely shocked she doesn't want to watch his 4-hour documentary on how bricks are made. Frank, honey, put down the needle and thread and go to therapy. To understand why this movie is so chaotic, we have to look back at the 1935 original. In that one, the bride was on screen for exactly 5 minutes. She hissed like a cat, and then the castle blew up. She was basically a guest star in her own movie. But 2026 Jessie Buckley? She is the main character. Maggie Gyllenhaal turned her into an anarchy queen. In 1935, the hair was a perfect beehive. In 2026, it's a punk rock mess. Notice the stitches, too. In the old movies, they were clean. Here, they look raw. It's a literal visual metaphor for how much grittier the 2020s are compared to the 1930s. Maggie is giving us Easter eggs by using some of the old lab equipment shapes, but she's burning the rest of the tropes to the ground. I saw Maggie Gyllenhaal on The View talking about this, and she explained that this isn't just a horror movie. It's about an awakening. She wanted to explore what happens when a woman gets a second chance and rejects everything society expects. You can tell Maggie is super passionate about the punk element here. She's not just making a monster movie, she's making a statement about freedom. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to get freedom from my laundry pile, but go off Maggie. Also, the casting is hilarious. Maggie is directing her husband, Peter Sarsgaard, as the detective who spends the whole movie chasing her, the two Walking Dead. Imagine that family group chat. Hey Jake, can you play a loser who gets bullied by a zombie? Great, see you at dinner. It gives the movie this weirdly personal energy, like we're watching a very expensive family argument. The early reactions are coming in, and weird seems to be the word of the day. The critics are out here calling it a masterpiece and a painting come to life, but honestly, I think it's just a mood for anyone who's ever woken up on a Monday feeling like a science experiment, but with a lot more screaming. It's definitely polarizing. Some people love the punk rock energy, and others are a bit confused by how bold it is. But hey, in a world of boring sequels, we love a movie that actually takes a risk, right?
Huh?
Okay, let's talk about the man of the hour, Frank. In the 1935 original, Boris Karloff gave us the classic monster. Flat head, neck bolts, and a walk that says, I really need a chiropractor. He was tragic, he was misunderstood, and let's be honest, he was a bit of a marshmallow. He just wanted a friend and maybe a nice sit down. Fast forward to 2026, and we have Christian Bale. And in true Bale fashion, he didn't just play the monster. He became a walking pile of trauma. He actually said in an interview that Boris Karloff got the flat head wrong. He claims that was just a bad 1930s hairstyle. Shots fired, Boris. Bale's Frank isn't a monster. He's a man who has lived so long he's become a myth. He's got gangster swagger, a thick accent, and he's coming apart at the seams, literally. His staples are falling out because he's basically a vintage jacket that's been through the wash too many times. Here's the meta twist that I love. In this movie, Frank has actually seen the Boris Karloff movies and read the Mary Shelley book. He's sitting there in 1930s Chicago, like, that's not me. My head isn't flat and I'm not 8 feet tall. People just say that because they're scared of me. He's basically a celebrity who hates his own biopic. He calls himself Frank now probably because Frankenstein's monster was too long for his business cards. While Karloff's monster was looking for a soul, Bale's Frank is looking for a partner in crime. He doesn't want a mate to hold hands with, he wants a Bonnie to his Clyde, so they can burn Chicago to the ground. It's not a rebirth, it's a midlife crisis that's lasted 100 years. Now, we have to talk about the real hero of this movie. Not the bride, not Frank, but Detective Jake Wiles, played by Peter Sarsgaard, who looks like he hasn't slept since the actual 19th century. If existential dread was a person, it would be this man. He is the lead detective on the case, which sounds cool until you realize his job is to track down 2 literal monsters who are currently having a Bonnie and Clyde moment across the Midwest. Sarsgaard himself said in an interview that his character has lost the plot. And you can see it. Every time he's on screen, he looks like he's trying to remember if he left the stove on or if he should just quit and become a beekeeper. And then there's the dynamic with his assistant, Memah Mallow, played by Penelope Cruz. Myrna is the one actually doing the work. She's solving the clues, she's 2 steps ahead, and Jake is just there. He's the boss who shows up to the meeting, eats all the donuts, and then asks what the project is about. There's a great line in a review that says, Wiles eats and Myrna works. He's literally the quiet quitting icon of 1936. While the bride is starting a radical feminist revolution, and Frank is curb-stomping mobsters, Jake Wiles is just leaning against a police car wondering if he can retire early. Look at his face in this scene. That is the face of a man who just wants a quiet life, but instead he has to deal with a woman who bleeds black ink and a giant with staples in his forehead. He's not even a hard-boiled detective. He's a soft-boiled detective who's been left in the pot too long. He's jaded, he's tired, and honestly, he's the most relatable person in the whole film. We are all Jake Wiles on a Monday morning. But while Wiles is busy being a quiet quitting icon, the real chaos is just getting started. Because let's be honest, you don't stitch 2 people back to life and expect them to just start a scrapbooking hobby. No. Penelope and Frank decide to take Chicago for a ride that would make the original Bonnie and Clyde look like Sunday school teachers. This middle section of the movie is basically a Hop Corps summer montage. They're hitting the speakeasies, they're wreaking havoc, and Frank is trying so hard to be a romantic lead. But Penelope? She's realizing she's not just a bride, she's a force of nature. This is where the movie shifts from a horror flick to a full-on Gothic punk tragedy. Now, before we get to the part that actually broke my heart, we have to look at why this 2026 version is so different from the 1935 original. In the old school version, the bride was a guest star. Here, Penelope is the sun, the moon, and the entire solar system. Maggie Gyllenhaal is out here giving us a version of the monster that doesn't want a husband, she wants an identity. And now the ending, the part where I officially went crumb. We're in the park. It's dark, it's tense, and Frank, bless his stitched-together heart, is actually asking Penelope to marry him. He's mid-proposal, probably thinking about a honeymoon in a graveyard, when the villain guy decides he have seen enough. Bam! A shot to the brain. Frank is down. Again. Penelope isn't just sad, she's done. She drove him to the scientist, Dr. Euphronius. And this is the scene that'll haunt your dreams. She's begging the doctor to shut her down. She's asking for the off switch because she's tired of being everyone's experiment. But then, the villain guy and the police start firing. It's a total bloodbath until Memah Mallow steps in. Myrna sees the truth, that these 2 are the only ones who actually understand each other. The movie ends with the lights flickering in the building, and that final, iconic shot of their 2 hands. It's not a happily ever after. It's a together forever in the dark. And honestly, for a movie this chaotic, it's the only ending that makes sense. Okay, besties, we gotta talk about the mother of all this madness, Mary Shelley. Can we just appreciate that she wrote this when she was only 18? 18. At 18, I was still trying to figure out if my eyeliner was even, and she was out here inventing science fiction and dismantling the patriarchy. Legend behavior, honestly. In the movie, the bride is all hair and screams. But in Mary's original head, The monster actually asks for a mate because he's lonely. Victor Frankenstein starts building her, then gets the ick and rips her apart before she's even finished. He was so scared she'd have her own opinions, or, heaven forbid, not like the monster. Mary was basically saying, men would rather destroy a woman than let her have a choice. And honestly, the tea is still piping hot 200 years later. Some fears say the bride is a reflection of Mary herself, someone born into a world that didn't know what to do with her brilliance. By making the bride reject everyone and everything at the end of the movie, the directors accidentally did exactly what Mary Shelley did in real life. They let the woman have the final, chaotic word, even if that word was just a no. So, was the bride a villain, a victim, or just a girl who wanted to be left alone? That is the Gothic, punk rock, mess of a masterpiece known as The Bride. Honestly, after that flickering light ending, I'm going to need at least 3 business days to process my emotions and a very large cup of tea. Seriously, Christian Bale, Jessie Buckley, and the whole Gyllenhaal family just took my soul and put it through a blender. But I want to hear from you. Are you Team Frank, even with the shot to the brain proposal? Or are you Team Penelope finding her freedom? And did you catch any of those 1935 Easter eggs I missed? Drop a comment below because the algorithm is a monster and your comments are the only thing keeping this channel alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss Memah, next time I decide to resurrect a dying movie and tear it apart. Stay chaotic, stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
The dead have got something to say.
Be great.
What's my name?